Hi everyone and welcome back to the Paperless Movement YouTube channel. I'm Tom Solid and I cannot wait to talk to my guest today, Carl Pohlin. He has his own YouTube channel and also the courses, and he's a coach when it comes to productivity using Evernote and ToDoist, and he has a wealth of knowledge to share with us today. So I cannot wait to show you the interview with Carl Pohlin. So this interview series is actually sponsored by my Inner Circle members, by you. If you're one of my members, thank you very much for your consistent support. Without your support, this wouldn't be possible to do for me, so thank you very much. But now, without further ado, let's dive into this interview with Carl Pohlin, where we talk about the latest release of Evernote, the issues we face there, but also the future of ToDoist and how we can actually be more productive and optimize our time management using those tools. Let's roll it! I know Carl since I started my journey on YouTube with the Paperless movement and so on, and he actually was one of the very first visitors on my videos, motivating me to keep going with my channel and so on. And I'm really proud that we are now here having an interview about productivity and time management, and believe me, this will be awesome. But before we get started, if you're not aware of Carl yet, he will introduce himself now and what it's all about. Carl, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Carl Pohlin, and for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been teaching, coaching, productivity, time management, and goal planning. 4 years ago, I started my YouTube channel. I also have podcast, a blog post, and numerous online courses. And you can find out pretty much everything you need to know about me at my website, carlpohlin.com. Everything is there. The YouTube videos go there, blogs, podcast, everything's there. So that's the best place to find out about me.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, and what is it all about? I think I saw on your website that you also have a membership and so on. Are you a productivity coach then?
Well, no, essentially I just do online courses, and I have a coaching program for those people who want to take it to the next level. But essentially I would say that 90% of what I do is through like the podcast, the YouTube videos, and my blog. You know, it's all there. But there are people who want to go the next level, who just want to get a system in place that's kind of tailored to them. And that's where I can step in with the coaching program or the online courses. So there's pretty much something there for everyone, no matter what level you're at, whether you're, just starting out on that productivity road and just want to get some kind of a system. And if you're already there and you want to go to the next level, there's something there.
Yeah, so, that's awesome. And if you follow Carl, and if you follow Carl on YouTube or on the podcast, then you know that he is the ToDoist guru there. If you want to know anything about ToDoist, just go to the YouTube channel. This is more than an online course, I would say. How many episodes about ToDoist do you have on your YouTube channel already?
I think today I I recorded episode 270 or 269.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there's a lot of ToDoist videos there.
So yeah, talking about time management.
We're rapidly moving towards 300.
Oh yeah, there we go. So talking about time management, you need some time to go through ToDoist things, but certainly you can search for the right things. But this is what gets me excited today, that we will talk about ToDoist, one of my favorite personal task managers as well, as you know. And we also will dive into Evernote. But let's start with ToDoist. So for me, ToDoist really is the best personal task manager due to its simplicity and ticking off boxes. And the major thing for me is integration with other tools, and that it's all over the place. I can access it from any device. What makes ToDoist your favorite or most recommended tool for task management?
Oh, no. Everything goes in for me. Everything's in
Okay.
ToDoist. My whole life is in ToDoist. No, I mean, I came from OmniFocus background. I'd spent like 3 or 4 years using OmniFocus, right up to about 2014 or 15, somewhere around there. And the problem I had with OmniFocus was that OmniFocus has this. I love OmniFocus. I mean, I would never criticize them. I think they do a fantastic job. But they have this thing called perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Now, perspectives is like your customization area where you can create the perfect view. And as you know, perfect doesn't actually exist, and yet we keep looking for it.
Yeah.
And I think I spent most of that 4 years looking for that perfect perspective. And I realized it was stopping me from doing work.
Mm-hmm.
I was great at reorganizing lists. I was great at, adding stuff into my OmniFocus. That was just brilliant. What I really decided was I needed something that didn't have that distraction, but still had the power to run my life. And ToDoist at that time was the one that really stood out for me. It was beautiful. It still is. It's an amazingly beautiful app to use. It's clean. It's very minimalist. Yet underneath all that, it has the power to manage thousands of tasks and projects and whatever. And from then on in, I've just been all in on ToDoist, and I can't ever imagine leaving them because it just gives me everything I want. But I say that because of my experience with Evernote. As the famous James Bond movie is, never say never again.
Again, yeah, you're right. So,
but no, ToDoist is brilliant.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And if you're one of my Inner Circle members, you might know that I just released a new ToDoist. How to use ToDoist like a pro course for the Inner Circle members. And in there, I just show my system of how I use ToDoist, and this is really simplistic. So ToDoist itself is already very minimalistic, what I really like. So we really come down to ticking off boxes per day. However, I think I only have 2 labels in there. One is someday maybe, and the other one is a focus label to organize this. I don't want to go in too much detail, so you can check out the course if you want. But and the other thing is that is really crucial for me is the 2-way synchronization with Google Calendar. You telling me now, Carl, that your whole life is in ToDoist. I have separate tools for this. So how can I visualize this?
Well, when I say my whole life is in it, my whole life in terms of what I need to do is in there. Actually, because I am an Evernote user, in terms of like plans, notes, things like that, that's all in Evernote.
Okay.
But I really do try to keep myself down to just 3 main tools. So I have a calendar, a task list manager, and a notes app. And I don't have anything else besides those 3 things. I'm not using like 2 notes app to do. Actually, I do tell a lie there, because I do use Apple's reminders for one thing specific, and that's our family grocery list.
Okay. That's interesting.
And because my wife has an iPhone, she's not interested in downloading productivity apps. She's kind of like the complete opposite of me.
Tell me.
So what we do is we have a shared shopping list in Apple Reminders, and it's brilliant because when you connect it to your phone or Apple Watch or even CarPlay, if you got CarPlay in your car, it's like I've just been to pick my wife up and coming back, going, I need to order, I need to get some lemons.
Yeah.
And, all I have to do is say that, hey, can't say it because my computers will go off.
That's really interesting.
Add lemons to my shopping list. And
yeah, that's really interesting because
it's really easy.
I can absolutely relate to this. So for my wife, it's the same. She has a paper calendar and she's the most efficient person I know. So she really focuses on the things, right? However, we are using one tool. So you're talking about reminders. We are using Bring. Do you know Bring, the app? Okay, so I think this.
I haven't heard of that one. No.
Okay, so maybe you are interested and you explain this now. So Bring
research
is
topic.
yeah. That's a quick sidetrack here to another topic, but I think it's interesting for the audience. So Bring actually is also living on your iPhone, on your Apple Watch, and wherever you want to have it. And it's a specific grocery list. So it is made for this. And the advantage of using Bring is that you also have boxes which also visualizes. So whenever you write down lemons or whatever, it shows lemons there. And you can just tap it off. So once you bought it in the supermarket. And the advantage is it remembers when did you tick off what boxes. So this means whenever you're in the same supermarket again, it reorders the things in the order how you go through the supermarket. So you have it always in the structure you need it there. And also it has some AI in there, and it reminds you that you're running out of onions, for example, because that's your usual way when you go buying new onions. So it remembers this, and then it has a calculation, when you should go buy next onions and things like that. So that's why I love to use Bring instead of reminders. But I absolutely agree. You have to have something easy, and there's no productivity app on the iPhone for my wife. That's no problem. Everybody has his issue. Everybody has his own setup. But what you just said about using ToDoist, Evernote, and Calendar, this sounds to me like a great single source of truth. So one thing that just gets into my mind when you mention Evernote and ToDoist, do you connect these two with each other?
I do, actually. And that was one of the big issues I actually had with the new Evernote 10 is it broke. I couldn't connect that's not strictly speaking true. What they did was they created something instead of the classic note link, which I've always used for like 10 years. I've just used that to connect my apps together. It disappeared in the new Evernote 10. Actually, it came back yesterday, so I can't complain. It has come back now. But it broke my whole system, and I was like, and it's weird because it was not something I thought about. It was just something I did, and because I'd been doing it for like, I guess 8 years, certainly since I've had an iPhone, so it's probably 10 years I've been doing it. Suddenly, it doesn't work, and I'm going but fortunately, I did find a work around it, and then Evernote there was a new release yesterday that gave me that option, and it's come back. So my workflow is great now. The reason why I use that one is because I don't use Evernote on the web. Because traditionally it's always been horrible. That's not necessarily the case today.
It is still the case.
It was.
I just realized it last time when I went to the web version and I tried to select several notes to move them to a different notebook. It's not possible. And then we are talking here about harmonization between the different apps, and you have the same. I don't. I talked to Ian Small in the first episode of this interviews about these things, and I'm really curious how they will carry on with bringing back features and keep pushing now, because obviously
I think on that point we have to be careful. Because I think a lot of people are getting excited, but what's actually happening is old features are coming back. That's not new features.
No, that's not new features. It's features just
coming back.
Calming down annoyed customers. And when you tell me something like this is really it's really horrible. You have productivity system in place. That's what, and you just mentioned one feature that you use there, and there are several features disappearing, and now they're coming back. Yeah, well, good. People have a daily business, and this is not working anymore. Obviously, they are looking for something else right now. So this is really something. They had to make a tough decision to do this, to launch the new platform and all this and bring the features back. But I think maybe they could have done a better job with listing all the features that will go away and things like that. And as Ian mentioned, they only have one shot with the iOS. They have to bring it out or they don't have to bring it out. So there was no workaround. So yeah, it's not an easy time for Evernote right now. Let's see how this develops. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it was a mistake the way that they've done it. That's just my personal opinion, because Evernote ToDoist did something very similar 2 years ago, they had the similar situation that Evernote found themselves in. They had a different app for Windows, a different app for Android, a different app for iOS and Mac. It was, for them, it was pretty much exactly the same situation that Evernote found themselves in. But Todoist didn't stop in bringing out the new releases. What they did is, in the background, they worked on what they called the Todoist Foundations, which came out a year ago, October last year. And when they brought that out, they brought it out, plus they brought out some new features. They didn't take anything away.
Yeah.
And like Evernote, it took them, I think it must have taken them, Todoist, probably 2 years to do the same thing.
Yeah.
To bring everything over into one synchronized platform. So if I was an app developer and you were looking for case studies, you've got a classic case here. Don't do what Evernote did, because you just upset all your customers, your long-term customers. Do what Todoist did. Most people didn't even realize that's what Todoist was doing until Foundations came out. And then they said, we've had to rewrite the code base to bring that consistency across devices.
Yeah. I could imagine that the reason is that they're running out of time at Evernote. So they, people are already annoyed that it takes so long, and it was already on a state where it desperately needed an overhaul of the whole system. So for Todoist, they realized there's an issue, they can work in the background, and the front end was still fine. Things were just working, and they had the time to develop this right. And this seems now like a rushed out release. So just people see that things happened and changes are happening, and now they're pushing out features as soon as possible. Yeah, I agree. The better way would have been get everything ready and then launch it. That's always, it doesn't matter if it is a new app or just an upgrade or something like that. I'm not really happy about things published unfinished and then make the actual users the better users. This is, not the right direction.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we'd waited nearly 2 years. I think we probably could have waited another couple of months.
Exactly. When it just takes, when it just takes now 3 months to bring back the features, that's what is claimed, isn't it? Yeah. The features will come back within 3 months. I absolutely agree. They could have waited another 3 months, and
I think
publish
it would
it
have been
with the
probably
features
better
included.
waiting the 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We'd waited long enough.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, for me now, Evernote is working again. I mean, I figured out the issues. I spent a whole afternoon trying to work around it so that I could get it. And I know I shouldn't have had to have spent a whole afternoon trying to get everything working again as it was. But I've got my workarounds now, and I do like the new interface. I love the dark mode. Evernote's dark mode now is brilliant. I'm not a big dark mode fan. Most of the apps I use are in light mode, because I think a lot of developers didn't really think about it. They said, oh, good, dark mode, let's make everything dark.
Yeah.
But they didn't think about contrast.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And if you look, but Evernote have got it right. The work they've done on the dark mode is brilliant. I love their dark mode version, and I'm using that. Todoist is another one that's got dark mode really good.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of apps where I just go, this
that's
working.
strange. When especially the all beloved Notion. I was using it in dark mode a long time, and I always thought, especially when the highlights came in, when you use the highlighter, it is just off. It seems to be off. So I switched back to light mode. I can absolutely relate to this. But let's stay with Evernote. So the reason why I ask if you integrate Todoist with Evernote is there is this tool called Plex that I actually use to connect Todoist with Asana. And this also connects to Evernote. So whenever you have a to-do inside Evernote, it will synchronize with your to-dos in Todoist. And this is the reason why I thought if you use it this way. But it seems that you keep it completely separately. So you have your knowledge management system in Evernote and your task management system in Todoist. Then the other question is, do you connect your Todoist with the calendar?
I do, but that's actually because I never used to, but I created a system I call the time sector system. And I don't organize my task manager by project. I organize it by time. So it's either this week, next week, this month, next month, or long term. So the only folder, I don't really call them projects, but the only folder I have connected to my calendar is this week. because that's all that matters to me. I'm, this week is the thing that matters. Next week isn't here yet.
Okay.
And I'm going to be doing a weekly planning session on Sunday anyway. And I find that anything beyond 4 or 5 days is likely to change because it just does. That's the world we live in today. So
yeah,
it's impossible for me to be able to say on Monday, this is exactly what I'm going to do on Friday. It's impossible because too many things will come up in the week that need to be done either Thursday or Friday.
So what
when
happens
I get to
if
Wednesday, I'm in a much stronger position.
Yeah.
Because I'm likely to be able to predict what will happen.
I agree with the fast changing time schedule that's going on there. But then a question arises. What happens if your wife happens to have birthday on Monday and you realize on Sunday that you have to buy her a birthday present?
I'm lucky because my wife branded her my wife branded her birthday into my brain. It's like a brain tattoo. It's there.
It's a biological thing. You just wake up screaming in the night.
My wife's birthday in February. She starts reminding me on New Year's Day.
So you have the same reminder as I have.
Those little hints. Yeah, I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
She's the best reminder for her birthday.
We have so much in common, Carl. That's the same thing for me. I don't track any birthdays or anything on my calendar or in my task list because my wife is there and she reminds me.
My wife will remind me. There's nothing to
but we know all, there's one thing we have to keep in mind: happy wife, happy life, and that's the
Absolutely.
good thing. So yeah, that's a good thing. So that's really interesting. So you're planning out only 1 week ahead, and it makes absolutely sense. So are there no long-term goals you have in mind, or any goal planning for what do you want to achieve in 1 year and things like this?
Oh yeah, I do. I have my long-term goals just like everyone else, but the only thing that matters to me in terms of what I do each week are the tasks that I have set up. So yeah. You're probably familiar with Tiago Forte's PARA system, projects, areas, resources, and archive. I've been using areas of focus for years. Areas of focus is kind of like the key things in my life: family, career, finances, lifestyle can be in there, health and fitness. It's like the general headings of life.
Yeah.
And I have a goal in each one of those. I mean, the family ones is not really a long-term goal. The family is more like stay in touch with my parents because I live in Korea. My parents live in Ireland now. So we've got a 12,000 kilometer gap.
Yeah.
So FaceTime is what we use to communicate. And I try to do that weekly.
Mm-hmm.
But like finances, how much am I trying to save this year? How much money? Because that's always a goal target of mine. I can divide that then by 12 and then by 4, if you like.
And then you have a weekly saving thing.
And now I have my weekly target.
Yeah.
But I like most people, I get paid monthly. So, I need to know my salary tends to come through around about the 7th to the 10th because it comes from Ireland, so it varies, but 7th to 10th of the month. So on the 11th, I have an area of focus which says send X amount of money to savings account.
Yeah. So you have recurring tasks in ToDoist that just pop up in the week, and that includes into your weekly planning then.
Yeah, so I don't even have to worry about them because I know they're going to come up. So they don't need to be planned because they will come up. Yeah. It's already kind of set. And that's something I learned quite a long time ago, which is the structure you set up for the week. So for me, Mondays is writing day.
Yeah.
So I wake up on Monday morning. I don't have to think, what do I have to do today? I know I'm going to be writing. The only thing I need to know is what am I going to write? And usually I have a long list in Evernote of things to write about. So I don't have to worry about finding anything. Thursdays, I record the screencasts for my YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. And Fridays, I record the talking headshots. And I do those both in the morning. So they're blocked off on my calendar every week. It's just blocked in my calendar. So I don't have to think about those things anymore, because the process will take care of itself. And I know people talk about automation and using apps for automation. I tend to sort of use time for my automation. When am I going to do this? When am I going to do that?
That's really
so for
interesting.
me, exercise, I've always done at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah. That you don't have to think about this anymore. And that's really interesting approach there. And
so the less I have to think, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can really understand, especially from this perspective, what happens when you plan out several weeks. You postpone things that you didn't achieve this week and you have to do it next week. And this means you have to reschedule everything on the next week. And it just goes on like this. So it makes absolutely sense to plan out short term. But would you say that this applies to any person in the world? Because when I think about business people and we have to rely on meetings that we have there, and they are rescheduling things all the time, and you have to keep things in mind for the next week and so on. I think it's not as easy when you talk about your personal life and you have a way.
No, you're
it sounds
right.
like that you have on a daily basis. You have a structure there every 2:00. But for me, for example, I can't say, okay, every day on 2:00 I will go out and go for a walk or things like this, because a meeting gets in the way. Things like this. I block out time, but sometimes, yeah.
No, I totally get that. I mean, for me, I've built that consistency over a long time. I've got stricter and stricter with my time. As in a way, as you go up the command chain or the food chain, whatever you want to call it, but as you go higher up the food chain, you get more control over your time.
So,
absolutely agree. If you're right at the bottom, and somebody more senior to you calls a meeting, you're not likely to be able to say no. But if they call a meeting at, say, 9:00 in the morning, and that's the time you'd set aside for, working on a presentation you have to do later in the week, but the meeting isn't going to go on all day. It's probably going to be 1 hour. So you just have to shift. So one of the key parts, though, is flexibility. When I say Mondays is writing day, I only have a 2-hour block for writing.
Okay, I see.
Now, the rest of the day, I can do meetings. I can do reply to emails. I can deal with emergencies, but I am very strict. That 2 hours, if I don't do it, when am I going to do it? Because if I postpone it, reschedule it for Tuesday, now I'm using my day off, my afternoon off, because I work weekends, so I take Tuesday afternoons off. So now I don't get any breaks. So I have to be very strict with that time.
That was a really important point you made there, was, you blocking 2 hours of the day to make this thing, because otherwise we go into micromanagement. And if you plan out the whole day, then you really, it is nearly impossible to keep up with what you scheduled the whole day. Things just get in the way.
It's going to go wrong by about 11 a.m.
Exactly. So that's really interesting.
So as I say, the key to the calendar blocking, or if you like, theming a day, and Mike Vardy system is all about theming the day. And I'm not quite as strict as the way that Mike does it, but I do have like little set systems, which is Mondays writing days, Thursdays recording, Fridays recording. It's 3 days, and I just block 2 hours for each of those activities. But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel that I have today. I wouldn't have a blog post, with, I think I've done nearly 1,000 blog posts. I wouldn't have, or like the podcast wouldn't be at, I think it's about 160 now. None of that would have happened if I didn't make that intention to allocate 2 hours on those specific days. And sure, I can make excuses. I can say, well, I've got so many meetings, I've got so many classes, and that's easy. I can do that. But then I wouldn't have a YouTube channel, I wouldn't have a blog, and I wouldn't have a podcast.
Absolutely agree. So I can relate to this working in corporate as well. And you were talking about the food chain there. I can relate to this. However, I always encourage people, no matter on what position they are, you can actually free up time. You can say, I don't take this meeting. And if it is not, if you can't force it, then you should talk to your boss, because then you can say, and that's the key thing, you need to be organized and know what tasks you need to do, what people want from you, and then you can go down and say, okay, look, I need at least this time to do this. If you want me to do this, then I can't do 5 meetings a day. I need to have blocks on my calendar that I block out to do these tasks. And this is actually what people really just don't do. I see it all over the time. They have empty spaces in their calendar all the time. And people wonder why my calendar is so filled up. Well, it is all the blocks where I'm working on the different tasks. And then I leave the spaces where I say, okay, if you really want to have a meeting, it's there. Or there are recurring meetings, they're in there anyway. So, and also about urgency. That's also a misunderstanding all the time. Everybody who calls you, it's always an urgent problem, but it's never. I mean, if they call you, it's already serious, but then you can still ask, how serious is it really? But if I get an email and they say, you should do this and this and this, and then, 1 week later they say, why didn't you react? Or let's say 24 hours later, why didn't you react? And I say, well, it was an email. If it was so urgent, you could have reached out via chat or, called me directly. Then it's urgent. Then I know to react on something. But I have my day planned out to do the work that I'm supposed to do. And, everything else is second place. Otherwise, you run out of time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a quote. One of my favorite quotes is, if everything's important, nothing is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I just absolutely love that. And I think one of the things people need to do is to train themselves in prioritization.
Yeah. Yeah, that's,
And how do you do that? How do you train yourself to prioritize? And we say, well, for me, which of these tasks will have the biggest impact on my day?
Yeah.
Now, I'm probably stolen that from Brian Tracy. I think his positive impact. Which of these tasks will have the biggest positive impact on my day? That's how he phrases it. Mm-hmm. And I think I read that in a Brian Tracy book maybe 20 years ago, and it's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
And it's another one of those things that I've done it so consistently that now every time I do my daily planning, which I still do every day, is I look at those tasks and say, well, which ones of those will have the biggest positive impact on my day and even on my life sometimes? And it makes prioritizing so easy.
Yeah.
So if I want to make my boss happy, then those tasks that my boss gave me are the ones that I'm going to prioritize. But, I might have other priorities in my life. So
that's also the reason why I use in ToDoist. We have 3 different priorities in there, or 4 if you take the 0 priority as well. And I only use 1. There's either it is a must do task that I have to do on this day, or those are tasks that I, if I have time left, I do them as well. I don't use any of the other priorities. That's what I show in the online course as well. This what you just said is the very reason for this, because as soon you start high priority, medium, and low, it is just a mess. That just makes no sense. And I see it so many times. Who actually invented those 3 priorities? and if you have this in place,
well, actually, to be honest,
if you have this
I
in
do
place,
have a use for it.
Then if you have this in place, when I'm doing coaching in the teams, and I say, okay, you want to have these priorities, then get your conventions right. You have to define what these 3 different priorities actually mean. Is it business critical? Is it time critical and things like this? Then you could define it. But I would rather use labels again for this. So sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I actually use the flags though. I read, like you, I use the red flag P1 as a absolutely must do today. Yeah. But the orange flag is morning task and the blue flag is a afternoon task. Now, the reason for that is just the way that ToDoist orders the list. So that means when I start the day, my 2 priorities, I use 2 priorities every day. So my 2 priorities at the top, followed by the tasks I would like to do in the morning and the tasks I would like to do in the afternoon. So although I'm not using the 2 other flags as priorities, they're just to help me organize the list so that I'm not looking, cherry picking.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Looking at the list and going, oh, that's an easy task. I'll do that one. That's an easy task. This way I'm forced to start at the top and work my way down.
Yeah. So, and you also use the your energy in this way? So in the morning, you obviously are more productive than in the afternoon. So do you sort it this way as well? That you organize it morning and afternoon?
Well, I don't use. My critical tasks, if you like, are done in the morning because I can trust myself. In the afternoon, I'm possibly getting
as
tired.
Soon we had lunch,
as
soon we had lunch, we are, we are animals that the brain just shuts off. Yeah. So
indeed.
That's really interesting. So for me, I have the two-way synchronization with Google. So I have times on my task in Todoist, and this gets synced on my calendar. And that's what I really love about this two-way synchronization, because I don't, even have to look at Todoist. I go into Google Calendar and drag around wherever I need it in the morning or in the evening. So I see it this way, and will order, obviously, in Todoist, then in the order of the day. So as soon you add the times. So that's why I really just use P1 flag if it is really something I need. And if I have meetings, this gets back synced. So if somebody invites me into a meeting, this gets back synced to the Todoist and automatically applies my P1 flag, because obviously a meeting is a must-do thing. So that's really where I have then a filter in Todoist. Yeah, that's two different approaches, and both are absolutely legit, I would say.
Oh yeah. I mean, everyone. That's the beauty of. It's something I stress to all my clients. Actually, it's important to build a system that works for you.
Yeah.
Don't try and copy somebody else's system, because that's inevitably going to go wrong.
Yeah,
we're all different. We all do different jobs. We all think differently. So it's really important to build a system that fits the way that we work. And it's not something you can do over a weekend.
No,
it takes a long time.
I absolutely agree. When we talk about the next shiny object syndrome, that's the next thing, people start with a system and then we skip. I mean, it was myself, I had to test all these things, and surely you looked at all the other tools as well, but we always came back to Todoist, it seems. So that's really a thing. When I see all the methods and the concepts out there, also mine and your concept and so on, we use certain tools to apply these concepts. But again, I agree with you that I can't stress enough when I talk to my Inner Circle members that it might not work for them using this tool to apply this concept. It is what I call it the I-Core framework, which is for input, control, output, refine. And this is just having a framework to place your tools and define your tools for the different parts of your productivity system. But what tools these are, it doesn't matter as long you connect the dots and they work with each other. If you have disconnected aisles all over the place, this stresses you out again. So I absolutely agree. It is important. And the next thing, to get started. To get started with something and see, does it work or doesn't it work? Yeah,
I mean, I have a basic system that I actually, it's free on my website. It's the COD system. I call it the COD system, which is collect, organize, and do. And essentially, that's the foundation. You need to be collecting everything, because if you're not, things are just going to disappear, or you'll trust your head, which is never a good place because you will forget.
Yeah.
The organizing part is organizing what you collected into places that will remind you when you need to be reminded, and then just get on and do the work.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of a key part to this. One of the biggest issues I find with people starting out on productivity is they spend way too much time in the organizing part.
Yeah.
That really needs to be like less than 5% of your day. That means 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Just 20 minutes a day maximum spending inside your productivity apps organizing. The rest of the time you need to be doing if you want to be productive. It's all about doing. It's not about organizing.
Yeah. That's the difference between being productive and being busy.
Yes. And it's one of the reasons why actually last year when I looked at Notion, I was actually quite excited about Notion. And I remember, I think I downloaded the app at around about 11 a.m. or something like that. And I was really excited, and I set it up and I was playing around with the backgrounds, the typefaces, and thinking, wow, I can do all this. And suddenly I looked at the clock and it's 6 p.m. And I went, and then I looked at Todoist, and I started the day with 10 tasks. I still had 10 tasks left to do.
Yeah.
And I realized at that point, it's like a penny dropped. I went, Todoist is not for me. Notion is not for me.
Yeah.
Because I know myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that this affects other people, but I do know myself. With all that customization, all those options, I'm going to play.
Yeah.
And so I immediately deleted Notion and thought, well, that was 6 hours of wasted time. But I know that was the best thing for me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's for
obviously
everyone else,
there's so many people out there, they love using Notion.
Far too much time.
Yeah. So just for the viewers and for the listeners, if we have overlapping, when we interrupt each other, it is just due to the delay between Korea and here, because I think it is even 2 seconds or something until you hear what I say. So, but let's stick with the Notion. There are obviously many raging now. Oh, Notion is so awesome and so on. I'm using Notion, but I'm using, as I do for all the other tools, for a single purpose. And Notion is for me the knowledge management. I'm using these databases to fill them up and so on, and have everything at hand, like you use Evernote for this to do. However, when I see that people build a whole system inside Notion for task management and all this, I'm not sure if this is really a good way to do. It is nice, and you can set up these all, and it also for Evernote. When people say I'm using a productivity system, Evernote, and do all my tasks. Yes, there are some checkboxes, but there are tools that just do the job better. So why do I force myself to stay in a system what does just half the job, and then people tell you how to do it properly? That's just what I try also to explain. Look for tools that really do the job, and Todoist is solely for task management and tick off boxes, and that's what you do. And you were talking about the 10 tasks still left, and one task should have been check out Notion for 6 hours. Then you would have been satisfied that you have done this.
Yeah. I learned my lesson. I learned it with OmniFocus. It's, as I say, it's why I switched to Todoist. But I realized that apps like Notion are not good for my character or personality type, because maybe there's a little bit of a perfectionist in me and it has to look right. Yeah. And Notion gives me too many tools to do that. And I don't want that. I want apps, for me personally, I want apps that just get out of the way, do the job that they're designed to do. Like Evernote's brilliant at taking notes, does that job well, and just get out of the way. I would never use Evernote as a task manager. Yeah. Likewise, I would never use Todoist as a planning tool or a notes app. It can do it, but it doesn't do it in the right, in a proper way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And now that you,
I'm not going to fight that battle. I want tools to do the job and get out the way.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think that's a good point to maybe talk about quickly about the new boards view in Todoist. What are your thoughts on this? Do we really need boards in Todoist?
I think it's, well, for me, actually, one of the best uses I've found for it is my annual planning template. Mm-hmm. I was using Asana for this, but I actually like having it in my Todoist at the bottom of the list. So I have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 for 2021.
That's
so
interesting.
As I'm doing because I'm in the process of doing my annual planning now. So all my ideas are being thrown into Evernote. But what I've liked to see in this board view, because it fits nicely on the screen, is what are the 4 projects I will do in Q1? What are the 4 projects I will do in Q2, Q3, Q4? I limit myself to 4 projects because that's a realistic number for me. It works out at roughly 1 project every 6 weeks, roughly. And it works for me. And that stops me from overscheduling my year or trying to be too ambitious in the year.
That's a good thing, yeah.
So that's where I found boards really useful. I did try it as my content scheduler, which is what I use Asana for, but I actually like the way that Asana allows me to put the thumbnail, because that tells me, okay, I've done the thumbnail for that YouTube video, or I've done the thumbnail for that blog post. Whereas in Todoist, I can't see that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I have to open up the task to have a look. So I did try that, but I've gone back to Asana with that one. But for annual planning, it's brilliant. I like that.
Okay, so
but
that's
for me, I'm a list person, really.
So this means you're using Asana then as well in your setup. Did you hear?
Yeah, Asana has its one role is to be my content scheduler.
Okay, so you're using the free version for this.
Yeah. And I got that idea from Steve Dotto. It was brilliant. And I thought, whoa, why wasn't I using that?
Okay.
So about 3 years ago now. So now it's brilliant because I can see exactly if I'm doing a guest blog post for somebody, they usually give me a deadline. So that can be in my Asana and I can see it. So I'm moving everything forward. So it's like one big picture view of where I'm at with all my content for the week.
So did you know about Plex, that it connects the two-way synchronization between Asana and ToDoist? Because when you talk about you have the
I've heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. So
and I've looked at some of those tools. I even played around with if this then that, and I've looked around a lot of those like bridging apps, if you like, the bridge between various apps. And maybe I'm old school, but I like to have my own personal manual input.
Okay. As long you don't have duplicated data, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
We don't want to have.
But I have looked at those kind of things, and Plex has been. I remember probably about a year or so ago now. I looked at it, but I didn't see, for me anyway, any specific use case for it.
Yeah, the only reason is, and the big difference between Plexi and IFTTT and Zapier and so on, is that Plexi really integrates tightly into these two apps and to have a two-way synchronization. You don't set up anything like in IFTTT where you know, it's always half-baked, whatever you build in these tools. So things get lost and doesn't work and things like this. And Plexi just ensures to do this. So this means I'm coming again to the two-way synchronization. I had a way when I was using Asana before I switched to ClickUp to have a two-way synchronization of my task from Asana in my calendar, and also all my personal tasks in Asana were in my to-do list. So this is, I think, a lot of people working in corporate where they are forced to use certain task management tools, and you have still your own task management tool. It's always a problem having duplicated tasks where what you manage manually, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, I suppose my system has been built up over a number of years, and it's a bit like David Allen. He still uses e-productivity, which I don't think has been updated for about 15 years. But if you go online to Google, just Google e-productivity and look at the screenshots, you'll cry. it's like Windows 1995 all over again. I mean, if you like to look at that kind of thing, that's great. But I've met David Allen, and but for him, it's a system that actually works. Yeah. And I think, you know what? That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
If you find that something works, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Because you're only going to end up adding complication.
Never change a running system. I think that's a good final word.
No, and I say for me, it's like with me and ToDoist, it's like I know all the keyboard shortcuts. I know how to get it to work. I don't want to relearn all that with a new app.
Yeah. And
it's one of the main reasons why I'm sticking with Evernote for now, is because I know the keyboard shortcuts. If they start moving them around, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah,
I know them.
Yeah, that's really horrible. Switching systems, you really have to think about this. You do this only once, and then you realize, oh my God, what have I done there? I have to start from scratch, and efficiency goes into the basement.
There's a lot to be said for muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly.
So like keyboard shortcuts, muscle memory. Please let me have that.
Yeah. Carl, this was an awesome talk, and I think we have to have a follow-up one. I think there's certainly a lot more to talk about productivity. It was awesome to have you on the show. I'm certain that a lot of viewers and listeners love this, what we just talked here about. Where people can find you, you mentioned already in the beginning, so certainly you have to check out Carl Poulin. And especially his YouTube channel. You will learn a lot when it comes to ToDoist, Evernote, and general productivity systems. Anything you want to let my audience know before we close the interview?
No, I think if they want to learn more about like the time sector system, I mentioned that in the while we were talking, it's all on my website. You can find out more. And the COD system, collect, organize, and do. It's a free course. You can take that. No, I'm not collecting your emails.
Oh, not even collecting emails.
There's no like sign up before anything like that. Just go and take the course.
That's very generous.
I think it does, but I'm not using them. I think the system collects it, but I don't use them. I'm not going to spam you, basically.
Yeah.
But I just want people. My goal in really is to help as many people as I can to become better organized and more productive. I'm not going to do all this hard selling stuff. That doesn't interest me, and I hate that myself.
Yeah.
I just want to help people to learn. And if they take the course and they enjoy it and they learn something, then that for me is a success.
That's awesome.
And that's really what matters to me.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think we are in an exciting time right now where productivity really becomes a thing, and the paperless situation and all this, where we have to change the way we think and leverage those systems. I'm sure we have a lot of things we can improve our productivity and efficiency with this. And with people like you, this is really what we need to get it running and have our well-oiled machine there. Thank you very much, Carl, for coming on the show, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Yes, me too. Bye.
So talking to Carl was really awesome. I think not only me, but you as well have a big takeaway here when it comes to productivity, optimizing your time management system. I'm sure you have loads of inspirations that you can implement now in your own productivity system. And if you don't want to miss the next interview, make sure you subscribe to this channel, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and I'll catch you up next time.